Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and man, we got a lot to cover today. This is really starting to, the more I get from her, this really starting to feel this kind of burden she's kind of put on me. But I'm here to execute, so do what I got to do. Starting out, we'll probably say things like this often because she's bringing so many new people to this channel. There is multiple years of backstory and understanding of certain topics that are generally hidden from the public and have been for a couple thousand years that we deal with here. So it is understandable to me if new people coming in here don't fully grasp what I'm saying when it comes to like certain names like Epinoia or whatever, or things that I'm talking about, or where I'm getting this stuff from. So I would encourage anybody to freely ask questions in the comments section, because there's probably going to be someone else that has the same question, and it's easier for me to let people know that they're free to ask questions rather than me to try to anticipate them and keep going over the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so with that being said, also when it comes to this channel, before we jump into today's very long topic, which is going to put a big bow on July 15th and where this is going now, a little bit about this channel and how it works. I will refer to my notes because kind of sort of have to. So this channel operates on a daily progression system in which the viewers get to follow me as I teach what topics she wants me to teach and try to discern what it's about. The true purpose of any given day and what is shared typically becomes more relevant and understandable with each passing day. Things happen in which we are able to see why she was saying something sometimes up to a week earlier. Now I'm fully integrated, connected to Sophia, Epinoia, Lumen, the Divine Feminine, which I mainly use the Gnostic framework, and she just slips things into my language as I talk. Like, I have to watch my videos, like I film the videos, I edit the videos, and then I watch the videos on playback, and it's usually not until I watch the videos on playback that I see what she's slipping into my language. It's a little bit strange like that, but you got to kind of pay attention because you never know what it is what point she's actually trying to make. It may not make sense for a couple days. I do not plan each day's videos ahead of time. The framework for what that day's video will contain typically take shape in the morning hours based on what she's popping into my head and the clues that she's bringing to my attention online through synchronicities and things like that. The primary purpose of this channel up to this point in the linear timeline is to educate people on many truths that have been hidden from them from the standpoint of one who is undergoing her process, which began many years ago, and to educate them on the hidden blocks that they have and the deception of the world aimed at preventing you from making this internal connection to this divine guidance. The primary framework that we utilize here is of Gnostic Christianity, which is very different from the authoritative organization we call the church. Instead of middlemen gatekeepers of knowledge that promote fear and judgment, you learn direct from who is essentially the Holy Spirit herself, who goes by many names. Enlightened Insight of Forethought, Epinoia, Spirit of Truth. The list goes on and on and on. All in the books that they took out. Right. What doesn't make sense today tends to make sense in a week. Hence the daily uncensored videos. What I mean by uncensored videos is, a lot of times, it might deal with something that she personally wants me to do because I'm still in the game too. I don't get the whole freaking playbook. And things that she may ask me to do may be relevant to other people. But anyway, if you have any questions about that, please feel free to leave a comment or message me through the links that are in the description box below. But anyway, everybody, hopefully everybody paid close attention at the words that we actually used over the last week or so, and did things like read the very long, like, kind of disclaimer explainer that we put in the videos that she had me write. Because if you think, because if you're only hearing bits and pieces of what everybody's been talking about lately, and you think, oh, nothing big happened today, like it's all nothing, then you weren't paying attention. We're going to explain this. We started off this morning by backtracking a little bit more clearly than we did yesterday, but there's a lot of new stuff in this as well. And yeah, her tone is changing, so you're definitely going to want to follow along with this. One other thing I will add myself is, when it comes to Epinoia, Sophia, all that, like we said earlier, like, there's no gatekeepers here. There's no authority inserting itself between you and the highest form of consciousness there is, which you may call God, I might call the Father, might call a couple different things. But when you go the Gnostic path, you form direct relationships, like she's actively interacting with you. And the higher you go, speaking to you, showing you things. She's the spirit of truth, so she reveals stuff. She takes stuff, she shows you where things are hidden. She explains things like, you know, even in the regular Bible, verses that don't make sense to most people. She points out what's false, she points out what's true, and she connects you to all sorts of other sources everywhere, because she is not limited to any one religion that claims to own her. In different places of the world, in different time frames, like, they've all got the same basic structure, calling it different things. Okay, that's how we deal with it. But the way she brought me into it is based on how I grew up. So I started off like a normal Christian, you know, earlier in life, and I walked away from that because I'm like, there's something not right here. This isn't clicking. Wandered the wilderness for a while, seeking truth. She's truth. So she likes to pluck people out of the wilderness. And it's funny, like, the most people I know that I've connected to her all are people that like, you know, there's something very wrong with religion. So they go out trying to find truth on their own, and that's when she finds you. She doesn't discriminate. But anyway, in this particular video, we're going to mainly deal with cleaning up the mess that is July 15th, and then clarifying what she's actually showing us in relation to what is coming. See, it's all about signs and seasons, not specific freaking dates. It's always been that way, but we just tend to, like, want to freaking do it. It's like we just want to know what day is the thing gonna happen. And she's not gonna tell you that, but she will give you signs and seasons, and boy, are we in the thick of it. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail red in the blue. Something you say or something you do, a taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me
So before I got started, I drew a couple cards and asked her, you know, about topic wise and different kind of questions. And in the first two cards that came out, I actually showed on camera the other day. I called it the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup of Doom. So the first one was Three of Swords, which is not a good card. It's not, a lot of people think this is just about heartbreak, but it's also about like impending disasters type events and possibly war. Followed by El Diablo, which if you read the actual script, makes reference to Typhon, which is connected to the Destroyer and all that stuff. And then we had the Queen of Cups. Like these cards were all pulled here recently because we explained this particular card. She's holding the covered golden chalice because it contains secrets that are not for everyone. So in this context, it's like, look, I can tell you what's coming. I can even tell you the time frame that it's coming, but I can't tell you specifically what it's going to look like or what day it's going to happen. So I'm like, well, what's the overall theme? And I pulled from the astrology deck, and I got Pluto, which is transformation, which we explained the other day in the video reading from a different book. It's like the purpose of this place is not to be a perfect place. It is supposed to be hard. It's specifically designed to be hard. All the bad things that are in the world, she's controlling them because they're meant to beat you up. It's meant to evolve you, evolve your soul. So I pulled a couple more cards from the Modern Spellcasters deck in terms of, like, you know, current time frame, what we're going to be the big elements. Got the King of Swords, which in this deck has always kind of represented harsh authority, government, that kind of stuff. Then we got the Five of Wands, which in this deck, you've got the people that are playing the game blindfolded. They can't see, and they're just fighting with each other and swinging their sticks around, smacking the hornet's nest, while the guy that's not wearing the blindfold and is not engaged in conflict is just sitting there looking at them like they're a bunch of idiots. And then when I pulled this one, I'm like, does this really fit? I'm like, I don't know. So I shuffled the deck again and drew another card and got the same freaking card. So I'm like, okay, well, I probably would have understood it if it was the Rider-Waite Tarot. But I got the Knight of Wands. So he's flying up in the sky on a bird, victorious. But in the Rider-Waite Tarot, Wands is the element of fire, and he's got like salamanders on his tunic, and it says the Knight of Wands can pass through the flames. And then I asked, the last one I asked was like, am I like really gonna have to keep doing this, or is it going to be over soon for me? Like, however. So I got Ten of Swords. That's a big nope. And then I got, I think it's Ten of Wands, which is, yep, that's your burden. You're going to be, I told you what we're here to do. We're going to do it. But then she finished it off with the Two of Cups, which is basically, look, you got your lumen before you even got out of this place. You got her back. She's integrated with you. Like, that's your strength. That's a strength card. So, you know, you got her because of everything that you do and what you're going to do. And it's pretty much like saying, like, I already know, like, what I'm getting, like, when I get out of here. So it's like, okay, well, you kind of got me in a corner there. So there's that gives you a little bit of the theme. So let's dive right into this, shall we? Because we've got a lot to read and then stuff to say at the end. Regarding today, July 15th, for people that are only like, for the people whose ears might have only been picking up like the highlights. It's the other reason why we explained how this channel works at the beginning with the daily progression, and I'm just giving it to you unfiltered. It's because I don't always know exactly how it all fits together. But eventually, without fail, you go enough days and things will be clarified, and she will wrap everything up with a nice little bow. and then you'll understand why she said what she said. Okay, so what did Epinoia, who's the inner guide, the instructor, spirit of truth, what did she specifically say? Okay, going in sequence. So back in April of 23, she started saying time is short, we got to do all this stuff. Early signs she focused on back then were tornadoes and super tsunamis, which I hadn't mentioned because I haven't seen anything come up about that, as well as revealing to me the hidden in plain sight apocalypse signs hidden in the tarot. There's like multiple layers of hidden meaning in the tarot that she pretty much has to download into your head to understand, which also has the secret progression map of both the hero's journey for both the individual and the world itself, and the Gnostic progression of tests that you go through. It's one of her secret guidebooks of encoded information that stems from secret teachings passed down ever since the Roman Empire hijacked the Gnostics, which were the descendants of the original apostles, took it over and modified it into the church, which is controlled by authority. She said, in the past year, and then she started saying it again at the beginning of this year, she basically alluded that the USA is in big trouble by the end of summer of 24. The completion of my 7 years is in the beginning of August. The first half of August 2024 is the time frame that I have always pegged for something really big to happen. Up until like this most recent thing, it was always like the first half of August. Stars, things like astrology and things like that, which is in the Bible, those are for signs and seasons. They are markers of seasons more than specific days. That's very, very pertinent when it comes to today. She started giving a lot of dragon signs, dragon symbology, connecting to dragons. Just, if you followed along for a while, you know what I'm talking about. She started showing signs of aggravation about the state of the world and it needing to be burned down. Yeah, and during those times of agitation, she'd say things like, sometimes in order to free the prisoners, you have to burn down the prison. She explained the explanation of the garden: mind, wife, virgin, garden of souls, harvest of souls. So that's like one of some of the biggest metaphors that are used when Jesus is teaching his mysteries, both in the regular Bible and in the Gnostic texts. You always hear about fields or gardens. Those refer to the mind, as does the Holy Grail, the cup. Also, you got to empty your cup. That deals with the mind. Virgin soil, virgin wife, the flip side of your mind, the divine feminine side, all that stuff goes together. That was pretty recent. So when we get to this stuff right here, there was a bunch of other things I'm just skipping over because we don't have time. But when it gets to this point right here, like, this is still, like, I feel like the most important thing that she did. We just hadn't quite sorted it out yet. Let's call it the Clash of the Titans sign, where she told me to watch those movies, and I did, and I'm like, why? She hadn't explained yet why, because it all ties to right now, which brought the focus eventually to July 15th, signs and seasons. Because of the algal connection and Perseus and Medusa's head and all that stuff. And she led me to the Symbols of an Alien Sky video, Plasma Apocalypse, and the roots of the ancient legends of the Destroyer event. All of those were in the first big July 15th video that you probably already watched. How that connects her to the angry goddess, the dragon, the trumpets, Medusa, and how that event coincides with the end of this particular world at the end of the age. All things that I did not know about until she brought it to my attention. Because up to this point, the focus has primarily been about just teaching people how to connect to her, how to connect to these things, which at the same time is getting you free of all the internal blocks and mechanisms and all the programming and things they did to your head, so you can't think and you can't figure things out and you can't connect to her. Like, that's what we were focused on for the last several years for the most part. And then through my astrologer friend, who is the next biggest person I know who is connected to her, introduced me to the Algol conjunction, which is today, July 15th. Now fully connecting to and explaining why she did the Clash of the Titans thing, why that was her initial clue for me. A framework of Greek mythology that also links in stuff from the Plasma Apocalypse videos, the stars as they are right now. It was like, that was the big clue. It was like, this is the time frame to pay attention to. All the stuff connected to this is going to be important. I'm going to try and go through this next part pretty quickly, because some of it's a little bit repetitive of the last video, but it's a little bit more clarified, but then it's getting into some new stuff. Why we focused on July 15th as an event day was not because of her. The day Algol was revealed, I learned that Clif High in the Future Forecasting Group was looking at the same day. At that time, they were unaware of the astrological sign. They drew things, the remote viewers, that matched the description of the plasma event stuff, which I only just learned about. They've also been drawing a lot of other things that are really big that one would expect to happen near the end in the framework as most people kind of know it, including some very, very big biblical revelation type stuff if you have the correct context, which you get from her, because she's the actual real Holy Spirit and the Spirit of truth. Thus, everybody began looking at July 15th as a possibility of big things happening. But as was explained in the last video, it is far more realistic that it should have been looked at as a sign, a marker, a nexus point, like we just said last video, as of things to come, as that is the correct usual interpretation of how stars have been seen and understood from antiquity. Like I said before, if you're a Christian, that's even in your Bible. So it doesn't necessarily mean when the star is aligned like this, this thing will happen. No, when the star is aligned like this, it is a sign that these things are about to happen. And as such, people that can access the etheric consciousness field, that is Sophia, it becomes highly logical that they too would also pick up on the same signs that that day is a marker for, such as, like, the remote viewers, which she described the mechanics of in at least 2 videos that we recently did in the last week. In the leading edge period of the Algol conjunction being active, we had a massive news event in the assassination attempt of Trump, which is just getting bigger with each passing day as more details are becoming plainly obvious. Here is a brief description of the Algol conjunction for those that didn't go into the links that I provided in that first video. This is not the whole thing, this is key parts. Looking through the lens of Uranian astrology may give us more specific details about what we can expect. Rules for planetary pictures state that when Mars is with Uranus, abrupt actions can be taken and unexpected developments occur. Over-impulsive action likely takes place because both planets are so impulsive. It says sudden events will likely occur. The combination without Algol is said to cause an enormous state of enormous excitement. It is associated with fighting, wounds, exciting action, energetic acts, and bloody injuries, like getting shot in the ear. It is said that accidents can occur. It has themes of independence, uprising, imprisonment, slavery, and freedom are strong with this conjunction. So in in regards to that event, which happened within the algal conjunction period. So maybe I'll cut Clif High some slack because he's dealing with freaking computers, which are a little more fidgety. But yeah, it wasn't anything the way he described. But now this thing is getting so big, it's like, you've got the least reliable system of divination. It's based on freaking a computer, so I'll cut you some slack on that. This was a USA-based event. All the signs and predictions are heavily USA-based, from things like iPet Goat 2, which we've analyzed over and over again at certain times, as she says, go back and look at it, because now you have new context and you can see what's in that video, to the USA representing Mystery Babylon in Revelation, the fall of the dollar, a lot of things. Everything is like the United States is going to get the brunt of most of the things that are coming. The Trump event matches the description of the algal conjunction, as we just detailed. But where most people are probably breathing a sigh of relief today, this is merely the beginning of the bigger picture. My data has nothing to do with that event specifically. It had to do with the bigger things. And the same guys that remote viewed the assassination have also been drawing the bigger things that I have been seeing, some of which were in their July 15th video, which, as we detailed, why these certain nexus points, you'll be focused on them because they connect to all this other stuff. Go watch previous videos. So fact, Epinoia drew attention to the July 15th algal conjunction, but she never said all these things would happen on that day. We just tend to assume these things over and over because it's our tendency to want to know ahead of time. But since pretty much forever, it's been about seasons, not specific days. No matter how many times we have these events that are specifically signs and seasons type events, we want to know so bad that we just naturally gravitate to them because of the nexus point and think maybe it's going to happen on this day. No, that's a marker. These signs and seasons, especially when when it comes to the stars and astrology and things like that, they're like seeing the sign that says, rest area, 1 mile ahead. So hey, a little bit ahead of me is going to be a rest area. I can get off. That's what these things are. And then when you get near them, you start to pick up on what it is that they're warning you about. Just as the last solar eclipse in April was a marker of things to come, not a day that something would happen. That proved true as everything that we do here after that eclipse began to accelerate at a breakneck speed. Like we've done more on this channel, revealed more on this channel. I've gone through more steps and big revelations on this channel since that eclipse than all the years put together that we've been on YouTube. All we have to do is look at the absolute craziness of the current political climate and the time frame the likes of which we've never seen before. At a time where the world economy, Okay, I had to reprint a page and it kind of threw things off a little bit. At a time where the world economy is teetering on the verge of collapse, things are not normal. Don't lose sight of that. Matter of fact, I saw this clip today. It's one of the things she actually drew me to.
That's all I'm trying to say. And they just tried to kill Trump. We're not in Kansas, folks. We're not in a normal situation.
The last video explained before the 15th why so many people are seeing future events around this time. Nexus point and the beginning of the final sequence. Clash of the Titans period. Okay, so we got some, now here, this is new. We got all like the big key astrological stuff when it comes to like from this point on through the time frame that I was originally focused on. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to know what my biggest fear is, my biggest fear is that I'm off on when it all ends. Because that would only mean like there's no indicator for me that I can see that would tell me when it would come to an end after this. Now she did tell me like a lot of the big stuff was going to happen very, very quickly, not spread out over years. Like we've already been in Revelation period. Things just don't freaking look like we were brought up thinking that they were going to look, or from the books or the movies or anything. She actually reminded me today, and it's just like, I know I said the first part before recently, but it's been more than once since she reminded me. At first I said, you know, back, I had to have been around 7 or 8 at my grandparents' house. And my grandpa had this one weird Bible with a lot of pictures of it and stuff like that, and I was fascinated by like the pictures in the book of Revelation. Now back then, nobody could make heads or tails. I mean, you can barely make heads or tails of it now, because when John wrote that book, he ate all the mushrooms. He ate them all. And that's why there's the symbols and the metaphors in there are just literally freaking over the friggin' top. But I remember looking at those pictures and thinking, or maybe it was her, like I would be there to see that. And then in more recent years, there's been times where it's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to help people through that period, which I wasn't like looking forward to. But I think I was kind of seeing it more in like the old framework that you see in movies and stuff like that. You know, more of like Walking Dead type on the ground scenario, and not like talking on YouTube. And as many times as I've tried to get my ass out of this path, she just pushes me right back. It's like, nope, you got something to do. You're gonna do it. I'm like, you agreed. I'm like, you're right, I did. I'm like, crap. I don't like talking about this stuff here, because the world is filled with people that believe they already know and that they own this material. And if it doesn't look like the way they say it does, they will attack you mercilessly, call you a false prophet, say you're teaching false teachings, you're deceived by the devil, and all sorts of other shit that they just flat out don't understand. I get tired of hearing it. I mean, I know what she is. Like, she trained me to do everything. You know, all my life, all the things that I can do is all from her. Like, I have knowing. That doesn't mean I know the future, but I know her. I know how things work. I know how things operate. She's the one that led me back to this framework. But she explained it all. She unmuddled it from what the world authority does. See, the second you let any authority put themselves between you and the higher consciousness, you're in trouble. Because authority only wants to control people. That's it. Most evil freaking government in history for this country. And they, as much as they say they don't like the Christian right, but isn't it nice of them that they still don't make churches pay taxes? Why do you think that is? I mean, just think about it. Okie doke. So check this out. I've got this full breakdown of this astrological stuff here. Okay, so the algal conjunction range, algal conjunct with Uranus and Mars in Taurus, which is today, but the effective range of it is was from the 10th through the 20th. and it was a couple days into it when the Trump thing popped. But Uranus will still stay close to Algol into 2025. Uranus is all about sneaky surprises that you don't see coming. Keeping with the Clash of the Titans theme, the Perseid, named after Perseus, meteor shower is from 7/14 to September 1st. So it just started, and it peaks around August 12th. A lot of these dates are going to come really close to each other. So you got Clash of the Titans stuff going all the way through, this time period coming up. Now, this is always fun. Those of you that know anything about astrology. The pre-shadow period of Mercury retrograde, everybody's favorite, begins tomorrow. I threw this in here because it felt important, even though this is not an astrological thing. The Republican National Convention begins 7/18. Mercury goes retrograde on August 4th. The pre-shadow of the Lionsgate. Now, the Lionsgate portal is good stuff. The pre-shadow of the Lionsgate portal begins 7/28. That's the times things have always happened for me, and that's when it started for me. I'd have to look up and explain Lionsgate. I just know it as a time period, but if I'm not mistaken, it has something to do with like the way the star Sirius lines up with the pyramids and something like that. I don't know. But they'll look that up. You can just Google that and figure it out. Okay, Mercury goes retrograde August 4th. Algol, the demon star, Medusa's eye, that's a big thing today, moves into 27 degrees Taurus on August 7th. Now, this is something I found today from the book, The Degrees of the Zodiac Symbolized. Taurus at 27 degrees. Symbol: a dark cloud passing over part of the earth. This cloud is charged with elemental shapes, most hideous and repulsive. Sounds like the stuff we were talking about in the last two videos. Such a person must beware, or he will be tempted to dabble in black magic, which would terminate in his utter ruin. Well, that sounds fun. So yeah, that's August 7th. Algol moves into that specific degree of Taurus, which is like, not great. So even though like the conjunction is today, like there's still more Algol action coming up. Lionsgate is 8/8. And it ends at the peak of the Perseid meteor shower, August 12th. My Hero's Journey Life Destruction happened right around August 12th, 2017, give or take a day. Like, I don't know the exact day. I've tried to figure it out, but there's not enough in my online footprints from back then to pinpoint what exact day it actually was. August 17th of 2020. August 17th will be 7 years from the first solar eclipse, the one that X'd out the United States. August 17th, and then the April 8th one. So there's a lot of big stuff moving in this time frame, starting now, going through August, through about the time frame that I was originally always thinking like the big thing will happen then. That doesn't mean it will, and that's what scares me. Because even though a lot of the big symbolic signs that are typically associated with Christian revelation have happened, yeah, I'm like, I can't imagine having to do this much more than 7 years. Oh, speaking of, Christian revelation signs, the ones that make the least sense, I was just waiting for somebody to say it, and I was scrolling through Rumble, and I finally saw it. I listened to about 5 minutes of that guy's video, and I'm like, okay, this dude's nuts. But I was waiting for somebody to connect Trump getting shot in the ear with the beast. There's a couple beasts. The beast, was the beast out of the ground? I don't remember. But one of the beasts had a head that was like fatally wounded, but he recovered, and all the people like were in awe and followed the beast. I'm like, that's gonna get people spun up. But again, that's like John when he ate all the mushrooms. He ate all the mushrooms and probably some things that we don't even know about too. Secret Book of John in the Nag Hammadi, that's a lot easier to follow. Book of Revelation, that's like, if you can't tell that is like he's on some serious drugs, like I mean, it's kind of freaking obvious. There was an interesting synchronicity clue last night, kind of creeped me out. Maybe I'll put a little clip of it in here. But when I was watching last night's video on playback, you know, on their phone, if you're looking at it vertically, the video that was underneath mine, it said The Sky, like cosmic horror short film or something like that. I'm like, Sky, huh? So I watched it, and even though it's like an 11-minute short movie, and it doesn't give like any context for it, but allegedly the world is ending, and these two girls are sitting out in the field on lawn chairs watching this crazy storm sky getting closer, and they're like, here, let's eat some freaking mushrooms, make it less make it more chill. And I'm like, okay. Having been put through many crazy experiences because she was using them to get me out of my body, the end of the world would not be the time that I would be eating psilocybin. But either which way, like, it was just weird, like this weird storm was coming and like things were being pulled up into the air, and it just had a creepy feel to it, but especially because the theme had to do with the sky, which we're talking a lot about lately, and the end of the freaking world. And I'd never seen that video before, but it just happened to be like immediately under my video that we were playing last night. Okay. Some of the clues from today. So when it comes to today, she wasn't saying much this morning as usual. So, you know, I used the different methods I had, and I'm just like, okay, guide me to something that you want me to see. I kind of flipped around YouTube and stuff like that. Eventually finding a video, and she's like, that one. And it was somebody with a podcast or radio show or something, like interviewing Alex Jones about what just happened. Now, Alex Jones is just one of those people where, love him or hate him, you got to admit the guy knows a lot. He's pretty tapped into what's going on. But so many people, it's just like it's kind of like the, you know, Trump derangement, syndrome. Like, I literally saw a comment today on someone else's post where, like, well, I practice witchcraft, so if Trump gets in, he's going to enact Project 2025, whatever the hell that is, and people like me are going to be rounded up and burned at the stake, and that's the truth. That's the truth? Like, that is a projection of your imagination, person. That's how a lot of people operate. They get stuck in their projections of imagination, and then they just discount anything anyone says if they ever hurt their feelings at least once. Alex Jones is kind of the same way. No frogs like him. You know, another thing that's like, anybody can freaking see it. It's like right in front of your face, just to show you like the level of corruption of the power structure right now. Just look at the mainstream news. Like, they're doing contortionist backflips to say anything but what it clearly was, which was an assassination attempt. They don't want to make him into a martyr. Oh, Trump fell down because loud pops, or here's the reason why, you know, Trump felt Secret Service escorted, like they won't say it. I mean, isn't that nuts? I mean, doesn't that stand out as freaking crazy? But anyway, there's simply too much that is supposed to happen in this story still, like that hasn't played out yet, for it to have all been in a single day. That was the one problem I always had with it. I'm like, if a big thing happens on the 15th, that would kind of mean like all these other little things just wouldn't be relevant anymore. It only makes sense in light of the data that July 15th was the marker, the final marker for the beginning of the crazy. That makes sense. All that makes perfect sense. And also, yeah, remote viewers viewed all that stuff too, but look at their own track record. It's similar to mine. Like, they don't usually get exact dates. Sometimes they don't even get exact months. But eventually what they see generally comes out, and then they can understand what it was they were drawing. So she's not going to give us the exact day of things. So if there's a big conjunction or something like that, then that's probably a marker. It's a marker. Doesn't necessarily mean something is going to happen on that day. So here's where it gets uncomfortable for me. Like, I've been uncomfortable for a very long time on this channel, because she puts me out there, and for the most part, she kind of like, for the most part, she kind of, this channel is kind of in a little bit of a protective bubble. Only every great once in a while does somebody that is of the completely brainwashed section of religion stumble in here and try to start crap. And if they do, they're going to say the exact same lines, because that's indicative of the people that are the brainwashed, you know, antagonists. They say the same things. Like, it's predictable. But for the most part, this is kind of a protective bubble. Like, I feel as though the system that we've had in place for some time, which is why it's not the biggest channel in the world, for the longest time, it was like you didn't find this channel unless she wanted you to find it. So when we got to this July 15th thing and she wanted me to start talking about that, she's like, there's going to be a lot more people coming in. Because now we're at a time where more people are going to be, they're sensing more. The closer we get to the worst stuff, the more people start to sense it's off, and they start looking for answers. So she said there was going to be an influx of people, and there has been. And I have, like, I always, when I get my thinking mind into it, I'm like, how am I going to, like, maybe people don't need to know everything that we know here, because this is so much to take in. Like, it took me 7 years. How are you supposed to do it in what, 7 days or 7 weeks or whatever? It's like, how? Like, no, you don't really have to. Because fact of the matter is, she connects to people of all sorts of faiths. She's in all freaking faiths. This is the way it works. Like, you got to rip that religious programming out of your head, which is anchored there by trauma-based mind control. Believe what we say, or you will go to hell forever. Do what we say, or you will go to hell forever. Like, that's some underhanded stuff right there. So I guess I keep feeling like it's my responsibility to connect people and all that. And she's like, it's not. You just need to do what I say. It's on them. But the fact of the matter is, as uncomfortable as it is, all the big frameworks kind of have pieces of the puzzle for that end period, and we're in that end period. It's like the Christian end period. It's just like the Christians' version of understanding what the certain symbols mean is completely off. Of understanding the time frames and things like that is completely off. There's so many things I hear them preach that is just bass backwards, and I only know that because of her, because she's able to explain what the words actually mean a lot of times you get the context by connecting them to the books that they took out. There's a lot of that in the Bible. There's a lot of things that you flat out do not have the context for what they're talking about because they took everything else out. Like the one in Ephesians where it says, "For we wrestle not against something, but against powers, against principalities, and spirits of wickedness in high places." Like, Christians just think that means devil and demons. It's like, no, those are very specific words. The reason why you can't figure it out is because that's all in the Gnostic books. That's all in the books they took out. See, they would rather have you focus on their little make-believe bad guy instead of like the real ones, which are entrenched in everything that is in authority in this world. So we're going to be mixing things in here. It's just not going to be doom talk all the time. Like, the real purpose of this is like, what do we need to do to help people with where they're at for connecting to what is within them? Because that's the only thing that's going to help. But there's something you need to know about her that may not be immediately relevant. It's something that comes from years of going through all the tests, all the Gnostic trials and everything, because she teaches in mysteries just like Jesus taught in mysteries and parables. You just didn't see all of them because guess what? They took them out. And that is, on the grand scale of things, it's just like we said about in that Colburn Bible book, where it's like, this place is designed to be hard. It's designed to kick your ass, to grow you, to evolve you. But you have to reach out to the higher thing. It's not going to reach out to you. So when I say Christians, I'm talking about just like the basic coloring book version that most people on the street know. You know, good guys, bad guys, God's in the sky, then there's a devil, and it's like really simple, and all you got to do is pledge allegiance to Jesus Christ, the United States of America, you got a free golden ticket to heaven. Like they give you like the 3-year-old version, and it never goes any further than that. But this whole place, the Gnostic books will explain it quite clearly. Yeah, you do have nasty stuff here, and they do control the nasty people here. But above all of that is her. So people would typically have this idea in their head that she's just there to hug you and coddle you and love you and protect you, right? Then you don't understand the purpose of this place and how it actually works. Because when in past years, when I talk about all the horrors that I've seen and gone through, a lot of which were highly supernatural, because that's just my path, being like Pisces and Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, on and on and on, psychic and all that stuff, former exorcist, this, that, and the other thing. All those things that were kicking my ass, like that's why like the pendants that we make are so like powerful, especially like the ones that are like the protective ones that have the Benedict metal and stuff like that. The reason they're so freaking powerful is because I just kept running into worse and worse and worse things that your little sage bundle that you got from the crystal store isn't going to do it. It's not going to cut it. Not just externally, but the stuff that's in your mind, embedded in your energy system. Like, it's so complex. It just got so bad that I ran out of things that work out in the world, so I had to start inventing them with her help. And I was just like, I'm so fed up with these things harassing me and all this. But you know what? It was actually her using those things to test me, to beat me senseless, to ruin my life, to wreck my cars, to take my money, because it forced me to evolve. Each time I would get to a point where it's like, woe is me, like, oh, it's so unfair, life is so, why do I have to do this? Until eventually you're just like, okay, crying about it ain't working. And trying to fight things externally isn't working. So I need to change something internally. Finally. So she'll beat you senseless. Like, going through her boot camp makes SEAL training look like a freaking day at the beach. Like, it was freaking, it was brutal. It was horrendous. And eventually I came to realize that it was her that was overseeing all of it. But I had gotten far enough to understand. And I'm like, now I get it. Now I understand why you had to do it that way. Why these really, really bad things happen. Because most people are still walking around with their ego helmet on, thinking that they're their name and their Facebook profile and their birth certificate, and this is me. No, it isn't. She has to destroy that to get the real you out, the real true mind out from under the false self, the ego.
We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall.
The person you see in the mirror with your name is not going to heaven. That's just the Halloween suit that you're currently wearing to play this game. You're going to discard that, and the real you goes to better places. They don't teach you that. You never heard any of that stuff in church. That's the way it works. You only find out what's really behind the curtain from her. She's the only one that can show you. So that's why we've worked so hard over the years to teach people, like, these are the ways you can connect to her. Now, where we kind of messed up, you know, being self-critical of, previous lessons, is once I got Lumen, which is her. Lumen is the partner. Lumen is the other half of your mind, the other half of your soul, your twin flame, your mirror, your spouse, your sibling. All beings are two. Usually, for most people, you're just projecting her onto other romantic partners. That's when you're in love with them. But eventually you're supposed to go through a series of trials, which is going to break her free from what's containing her, and then she can rise to the conscious mind. And then you can actually meet her, and you learn a whole new freaking series of awesome. She's the strength card in tarot. God, give me strength. Well, that's her. Because she will love you so hard in ways that no one in the world can, and that makes everything bearable. I spent way too much time thinking that I could help people connect to that. But that's like something that you really have to go through the shit to get, if you're going to get it here. You will eventually get it when you get out of here. You'll be reconnected with your other half. But to get it in here means undergoing the hardest level of the hero's journey test, which is detailed in the tarot. So a lot of those cards have to do with her. The Lover's card has to do with her. The Two of Cups has to do with her. And at the higher levels, High Priestess, that's Epinoia. The Empress, that's Sophia. And you've got all the queens, which they can. Right now, Sophia is kind of in the Queen of Wands mode. That's the fire one. Sophia is what is going to be behind everything that happens, no matter how bad it looks. From the higher aspect, her goal is to bring her seeds, which are the souls of people here, up to harvest level. So if you've been avoiding hardship and inner work and stuff like that, then you get to experience this fun that we have here at the end. Because all this avoidance you're doing, trying to connect to that higher thing, like, she's going to hit you so hard with what's coming that it will break you and make you pray. And the good thing about that is, most of you that aren't doing it are because you're turned off by church, which I completely understand. But guess what? I'm here to tell you, you don't need church. The books, yeah, they're still relevant, as long as you leave the Old Testament out of it. New Testament stuff, the Gnostic stuff, and there's even some other ones that aren't in the Nag Hammadi, different writings of Jesus and things like that. But church is like, nope, we trademark Jesus. We own him. You can't get him. You can't get him without us. But even in those books, like, he was only there for a short period of time, and then he specifically said, I'm leaving, but paraphrasing here, I'm going to pass the baton to what can come after me, Spirit of Truth, which will live with you and in you, and it will speak. It hears what the Father says and speaks it. Now, what did authority do? Because they hate women, they gender swapped it. Turn the Holy Spirit into a dude. If you want to find out who's like really like aggressively brainwashed, like they say they're Christians, but they actually aren't. They're just playing that role to stir things up. All you gotta do is walk into like a crowd of religious people and yell at the top of your lungs, the Holy Spirit's a female, and you'll see like who they are, because they'll pretty much try to punch you in the face. That triggers them like nothing I've ever seen. And if you want to understand why, you have to read the Gnostic books, because it all starts in the whole Garden of Eden story. But it's also the same reason why women are so oppressed in this world, and certain things that they have to put up with that men don't happen. It's all in the Gnostic books. So, yeah, as I've said in many videos before, if you learned it from authority, assume the opposite. If authority tells you not to look at something, that's the first thing you need to look at. Overcoming your fear of authority is like one of the first steps to breaking out of the first box. If you do not learn to color outside the lines, if you are not brave enough to go look at the things that they told you not to look at, you will not find truth. What she teaches through this channel and all the references that we tell people about, it's like, here's references. Go read them. Get the Nag Hammadi on Kindle and just follow your intuition on which books to read first. Like, when you connect to this stuff the right way, when you understand how to do it the right way, which is not go to authority and do what they tell you, and maybe they'll let you talk to God if you give them some money that week. Like, you will have real, undeniable experiences. You might not be able to prove it to other people, but you will know. She has a very particular way of how she teaches you and how she proves herself to you, because she does it in a way where you generally, it's something you don't know about. She finds a way. She's really, really good at it. So you're not quite sure where you're going with it, and then something big happens and you're like, oh my gosh, can't believe that happened. Then after it happens, she will lead you to show you somewhere where it's written. And the reason she does it that way is so that your ego mind cannot say, well, you know what, I probably just projected that experience because I read about it somewhere. No, she has a very particular way of proving herself that is absolutely freaking undeniable. That's how most of the Gnostic path is going through one experience for another. I'm like, why are we doing this? And then something big happens. And then she shows you where it's written. You know, like the Lover's Card event. Like when that happened, that was, did not see that coming. And then she showed me shuffling the deck, and you know, the Seven of Cups jumps out. And I always thought that thing in the center was a mushroom, when it's actually a bride under a veil holding her arms out. She actually used mushrooms to make that happen. So there's your mushroom connection too. That led to the Lover's Card. And then when I thought I was absolutely nuts for about 3 days, she waited like 3-4 days to freaking explain it. Then she finally told me, go read Exegesis on the Soul in the Nag Hammadi. And ta-da, there was the whole story. Everything that happened to me. This is how it works. And this is why she's now suddenly in your head. Because that was the marriage of the soul. She always proves herself. She always proves herself. She's the spirit of truth. She does not bullshit you. If you think she did, it's because she gave you some sort of clue that you yourself decided to misinterpret and project it onto something else.
Morpheus. The Oracle. She told me
She told you exactly what you needed to hear. That's all. Neo, sooner or later you're going to realize, just as I did, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path.
So every time that's happened, eventually she finds a way of pointing it out to you. No, you took what I said and you made an assumption, and then you posted it on this, and I didn't actually say that, now did I? No, you're right. Spirit of truth, she never lies. So, yeah, this is a big thing, but understand, like, so it does say in the Nag Hammadi, when it's describing the same events that they do kind of like in the regular Bible, when she breaks the system, when she breaks the particular environment that we're currently existing in, like that's her. It's her that's doing it. It's her dragon. It's her everything. Because that's the reason why this is like for the people that didn't do the long haul like I did. It's going to be really bad all at once. It's going to break your ego like very, very fast. Like your ego is the egg. Think of it that way, that your true self is in. To get you out, she's got to break the egg. And right now, the problem is most people walk around in the world today think they are the egg. They think that they are the egg. Well, she's going to break you. And when it's all said and done, you'll thank her for it. You'll understand then. This place is uncomfortable. This place is hard. And it's supposed to be that way because it's meant to evolve your soul. It's meant to evolve your soul. And there does not need to be any authority in between you and her, or you and the Father, the highest aspect. You should be highly suspicious of any authority that wants to put themselves between you and God. On the surface, that should be crazy. That they do not trust you to do your own research. They don't trust you to read your own books. They're going to give you the book. They're going to tell you God wrote it, even though like all the authors or names are at the top of the chapters. And then they're going to read it to you, and they're going to tell you what it means. And they're going to make all sorts of they're going to make all sorts of assumptions and projections about certain things in there that aren't actually on paper to confuse you. That's why I got nowhere. In all the years that I was like religious, nothing ever happened. Nothing ever clicked. So I went out and started looking myself. got kind of just like some magic stuff, but it was more like the Hebrew letter defined names. I'm like, why am I being drawn to this? These kind of feel like codes or something. And she was telling me, yeah, do this one, do this one. And then eventually she popped out of nowhere. And I'm like, holy crap, who are you? Like this, it was just like when Aladdin rubbed the lamp. She just freaking burst out of me one day. I had no freaking idea what the hell was going on. I was just like dumbstruck. My brain didn't have a frame of reference for what I was seeing. Because I could see her, but I could also see what she was seeing. She was just happy and zipping all over the place. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? It wasn't until like 2 days later that I got her back and she introduced herself. But it wasn't until a couple months later when I started asking questions, asked her to explain Jesus to me. And that's when she told me about the non-commodity. I didn't know what that was. But then I found out what it was. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard some of this before. I think like David Icke's talked all parts of it or something like that. I'm like, this is the book the Archons are in, right? I never really read it. But the books that she led me to read first were the ones that she was in. And I saw it immediately. I'm like, oh my God. That's who you are? My freaking head about exploded. And then I had to learn like not to project like what I thought she was onto her. And I asked her to be who she actually is. And then like everything opened up and it got a lot more clear. And I could tell then that, hey, there's two of you. There's this one that usually looks normal, like a normal woman. And then there's the other one that looks like a fire angel, or nowadays I just don't even see her, I just hear her. That's Epinoia. As I went further down the process, eventually I got to meet Sophia. You know, the first level of the Divine Mother. And twice I've got to meet Christ, and he is not like what you would expect. When she led me to do the Gnostic baptism, which is what they show you in the star card in tarot, I didn't even know what we were doing. She's like having me cobble together this ritual out of different parts of the Gospel of Philip and the non-commodity. And I'm like, kind of half understanding it, but not really. Because you got to do it like when the sunlight's hitting the water, making that bright sparkly light. That's what the star card's actually showing you, not stars. That's sunlight on moving water, making that bright flashy light. And the picture thing is like, you know, you gotta bless and consecrate one and not the other. So the blessed one is life, the bad one is death. And then you gotta pour the blessed one into the river, life. So you're going into life, and you're pouring death out on land. So you're going out of death and into life. You gotta do the Eucharist and all this stuff. And it's kind of hard to do like during the day because the sun's got to kind of be overhead, or else it gets kind of hard with the angles of light to actually get in the light water. Like it's best to do it like between like 12 and 1. Like I didn't know any of that stuff, but that's when he showed up first time, and I was just like dumbstruck because he looked like somebody else, but I knew exactly who it was. And then the other time he showed up, it's like you're just kind of like chilling, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, hello, yes sir. Because what they show you is kind of like this, you know, hippie in a bathrobe, you know, that likes to go to petting zoos and pet sheep and read to kids. Like that's generally what, and do party tricks.
I give you the Buddy Christ. Now, that's not the sanctioned term we're using for the symbol, just something we've been kicking around the office. But look at it. Doesn't it pop? Buddy Christ.
Like that's generally what they show you. You want to know what he's really like? Imagine a 3D model of a human male that is perfectly clear. And inside that perfectly clear model, there is a nuclear bomb going off. Like that first split second of detonation, like all that power and light. And it's all contained in this translucent figure. That's what he's like. Because what Christ is kind of like, if this is the sun and there's a magnifying glass and you're making that tiny little hot dot that burns wood, he's the tiny little hot dot. He's the whole big thing condensed into that. That's why you deal with her, because he's overwhelming. He's over freaking whelming. That is like trying to putting a cigarette in your mouth and trying to stick your face up behind the jet engine of an F-18 Hornet trying to light a cigarette. Like, it's like that. As powerful as she is, like, she's still a softer touch. Now, when she gets into dragon mode, which she's about to, that's a different story. I've seen what she can do. Like I said, I'm a super freaking psychic. In all that time frame that I went through those stages, I've seen her cut down archons and stuff like that. She is the sword. She is the enchanted sword symbol from all the movies that the hero has to get. He's got to get the sword, and he's got to rescue the princess. You can't rescue the princess without the sword. Epinoia is the sword. Lumen is the princess. That's what all these stories are about. She's the sword of spirit. When in the Bible, when they're talking about the armor of God, that's her. She knows how to use that friggin' sword too. But at the same time, she's the one that's going to kick your ass to break you out of your ego mold so she can free you. Because this place is not real. This place is designed to suck. This place is designed to not be fun. Like, it's so much bigger out there if you get the glimpse outside of it. This place is horrible. I said in the other video, like, imagine this big magical golden city. That's the real world. What this world is two 4-year-olds in the living room that threw a blanket over a card table and they're playing fort. Or, we're in our fort. Yeah, that's what this world is equivalent to compared to the pleroma, the outer thing. This place is the shadows on the wall in Plato's allegory of the cave. That place is getting all the way outside of the cave where you're blinded by the sun. She's freaking, like, ask anybody that's I've done work with, that I've connected to them. You know, even like people that can feel the energy of her pendants and things like that. They know. They know. And right now, she's doing everybody a favor by making me put my neck out there and tell them, like, this is the time period that we're in. The signs are right in front of you. All you got to do is choose to see them. And she's offering a branch. Do you want to come with me now? Or we can do it the hard way. Either way, I'm still going to get you out of here, but we can either be friends now, or I'm going to beat your ass senseless. And you're probably going to hate me, but I'm going to do what I got to do to get you to where you need to be. That's the truth. That's the truth. Can't just go get baptized by Pastor Bob, pledge allegiance, and get your free ticket. Hasn't worked before. Why would it work now? Well, you think this is the first lifetime you've been here? You've been here a long freaking time. A long time. Just because you can't remember it doesn't mean you haven't been. So, yep. All right. I think we've done enough here. I don't like the pressure of all this, but I don't know. Hopefully she's guiding my words enough that it's resonating with somebody. Like, she's real. She's what you've been looking for. Like, she's the thing that doesn't fail you. But you got to be willing to go through what she has to do to help you. and it's gonna be uncomfortable. But we're at a time frame now where like there just isn't time to do the long stretch like I did. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do to kind of help, like disconnecting a lot of different parts in your mind so that they're not interfering with you, helping you dump the traumas and the grudges and all that stuff and do the absolution, reconnect you directly to her so that it doesn't have to go like the hard way. But make no mistake, like the time for sitting on the sidelines and kicking the can down the road are over. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not, you're gonna find out. So that's the truth. Okie doke. Well, that's enough for right now. You can contact us through the Etsy store, cluminations.etsy.com. And like anybody that like gets one of the pendants off of there too, like we do like, you know, a free session with you with that too. Whatever level we need to do, even if it's just to explain the stuff, but doing the direct work with people is what yields the most results. Because I had to learn how to do it, but I had to learn how to do it myself, on myself, which is a lot harder. Now that I've like attained all those levels and have the authority to do so, I can just make it a lot easier on people. All right, well, that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen, see you next time.